Bodybuilders are getting smarter. They're not making the mistakes I've seen so many beginners make in the past, training the upper body and neglecting the legs. The legs have to be blasted just as much as the upper body. The Western Airlines jet is 20,000 feet above the Nevada desert. It will be 30 minutes before we land at Los Angeles International Airport. This is an ideal opportunity to catch always on the go Arnold Schwarzenegger at rest long enough to get him to explain the training that produced his phenomenal thighs. I always train legs right from the start. I described in my first book, The Education of a Bodybuilder, how I would go into the forest with my friends to do squats for 3 hours straight, more than 50 sets, just to shock the muscles into responding. In that kind of atmosphere, there was no room for anything but 100% effort, all out and insane. Building up my legs was hard for me because I have long legs and long muscles. If you have short legs like Franco Columbu, Danny Padilla, or Casey Viator, maybe you can do a few leg extensions and squats and develop big thighs. But if you're long-legged, like Dave Draper, Dennis Tinerino, Lou Ferrigno, or myself, you have to do a lot more work. But then, of course, when we finally do get the development, it looks a lot more graceful. Body type determines the character of your workouts, Arnold believes. The short-legged bodybuilder who puts on lower body mass easily can afford a more limited workout. But the long-legged bodybuilder is going to have to explore a wider variety of exercises in his lower body routine. You've got to shock the muscles. You'll do squats the rest of your life, but then there are times when you have to switch from leg extensions to heavy leg presses, front squats, or lunges until you find out which exercises make your legs respond the best. And you have to keep varying your routine so that your muscles are consistently surprised by the demands you're putting on them. Since the legs are composed of a number of really big muscles, Arnold says you must make the effort to bring out all the leg qualities, every plane and contour. This, he explains, takes intelligence and imagination. Suppose you have a deficiency on the inside of the thigh. You could do leg presses with your feet wide apart and turned out to work that area. Or you could do front squats the same way. Or for you, it might be that lunges work that area better. That's why you need to experiment to find what exercises do the job for you and what combination of sets and repetitions produce the greatest gains. For most people, heavy weights and low reps produce the greatest mass, but Arnold has observed bodybuilders like Franco who seem to be able to build tremendous mass and yet always like to work with high reps. That's why he stresses the need to experiment and not take anyone's advice too literally until you find out how it works on you. Personally, I always began with 7 sets of squats, starting out with 135 pounds and working up to 455 pounds. Sometimes I'd use a block under my heels. Other times, as the strength of my legs changed, I'd do better without the block. Because squats were always difficult for me, I'd seek out people like Ken Waller to train with. He was so strong in that exercise that I knew he'd push me hard. Or I'd go down to the beach with Franco and do back squats. With a bunch of girls watching, neither of us could do any less than go all out. Next, I do front squats, standing with my knees and feet outward. This is much stricter movement, forcing you to come up with your back totally straight. Unlike the back squats, this exercise prevented me from using my back to assist in the movement. Therefore, the effort was isolated totally on the thighs. Then I followed up with a combination of leg curls and lunges. This combination really worked well for me as a superset. All these exercises together came to about 20 sets, and that was my normal leg workout for most of the year. As Arnold got closer to the contest, he changed the routine to include leg extensions, and he'd do as many as 10 sets of leg curls to really define the leg biceps. At the same time, he could cut down his squats to 5 sets and do only 3 to 4 each of front squats and lunges. The leg biceps is really important to fill out the look of the leg and balance off big thighs. But a lot of people don't do leg curls correctly. They let their hips come up off the bench as they're lifting, and this cuts down the effect of the exercise by as much as 20%. I recommend that you don't use so much weight that your hips come up, or you have a training partner hold you down on the bench. According to Arnold, an often neglected part of leg training is stretching the muscles. He recommends a practice he learned from Boyer Coe. Follow up a set of leg curls immediately with some stiff-legged deadlifts done off a bench. The deadlifts serve to stretch the leg biceps right after they've been contracted in the leg curls. Or you can do the type of thigh stretch where you kneel, then sit your heels and lean back. This stretch complements an exercise like leg extensions. If you've ever seen Tom Platz turn himself into a pretzel with this kind of stretch, you'll never again think that men with big muscles can't be limber. There's one other aspect of leg training that Arnold thinks is often overlooked: flexing. He always included flexing in his leg training. Training with weights is only half the workout. Once you've worked the muscle and it's really pumped, you need to pose and flex to watch it develop to maximum definition. Watch Bill Grant train and you'll see that whenever he works his arms, he turns to the mirror and does a lot of flexing. But he doesn't do the same thing when he trains legs. Flexing the muscles makes them hard and defined. That can make a whole lot of difference at contest time. The thighs represent such a large muscle mass that Arnold believes you can never neglect them without paying a price. Some bodybuilders do 10 sets of leg extensions, then do 20 for the chest. That kind of training will not produce a champion. Arnold also recommends such activities as running and bicycling, not just because they burn calories and produce greater definition, but because they teach the body to deal with its own increasing mass. Building mass and strength without a corresponding attention to coordination and agility produces an awkward, ungainly physique, one unlikely to impress competition judges. The voice of the stewardess comes over the PA. We are about to land in Los Angeles. Time for one more question. How often did Arnold schedule leg workouts? 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On Monday, I'd really blast the thighs, using as much weight as I possibly could. Wednesday, I'd still lift heavy, but not quite as much. Friday, I'd work a lot lighter and go for high reps. On the ground at Los Angeles International Airport, Arnold walked through the terminal a few paces ahead of me. People constantly recognized him as a celebrity of some kind, and they turned to stare. I wondered if those people appreciated the difference between Arnold and some of the other celebrities from tenuous claims of fame. I thought about the 50 sets of squats in the forest, the 17 or so years of incredibly hard training. No, I decided those people don't appreciate the difference, but those of us involved in bodybuilding certainly do, don't we?